The following is a special video presentation from the Las Vegas Review-Journal. You are watching RJ Debates 2020. Here is your host, Victor Jakes.
Hello, I'm Victor Jakes. Welcome to the Las Vegas Review-Journal's Nevada Judicial Debate Series. Today's debate is between the two candidates running in the general election for Clark County Family Court Department M. They are Lynn Hughes and Amy Mastin. The current incumbent is retiring, and we'll start by giving each candidate 1 minute to make an opening statement. Lynn, go ahead.
Thank you. Again, my name is Lynn Hughes, and I'm running for Family Court Department M. I've lived in Las Vegas for most of my life. Come here and gone through from grade school on up through UNLV. Had to go away to law school because they didn't have this one done at the time. But I came back to Las Vegas, and I have practiced here since that time, 23 years that I practiced in family law, in guardianship, in probate. That's where I have focused my practice. I've represented many families in Clark County courts on divorces, adoptions, guardianship, custody, relocation, all the family law matters. I was also appointed to the Nevada Permanent Guardianship Commission in 2017 by the Nevada Supreme Court. That commission is designed to assist in getting the guardianship courts cleaned up, in issuing new procedures and rules. And I was on the rules subcommittee coming up with rules for the guardianship courts. I've also served as a pro tem hearing master. Am I done?
Yeah, thank you, Lynn. I appreciate it. I know the minute goes fast.
It goes fast, yes.
Amy, 1 minute for you.
I'm Amy Mastin. I'm running for Family Court Department M. My training and my vast judicial experience make me the best candidate for Department M. For the past 7 years, I've been a family court hearing master. A hearing master is an appointed judicial officer. I was selected by the district court judges to hear domestic violence cases. I've also heard guardianship cases, discovery disputes, and I currently hear child support cases. As a hearing master, I do the job of a judge under the supervision of the family court presiding judge. I've essentially been an apprentice judge for the past 7 years, learning the job that I'm asking to be elected to. Before I was a hearing master, I had a private practice devoted exclusively to family court issues. Before that, I was a deputy district attorney prosecuting child support and neglect cases. My entire 24-year career has been devoted to families and to public service, and I'm running for Family Court Department M as an extension of that commitment. Amy Mastin, Family Court Department M.
Thank you very much, Amy. Lynn, I'll give you the first question here. Divorces and custody cases are a big part of family court and frequently involve emotional disputes. Will you describe your thought process for resolving these conflicts and how you balance the needs of children with the rights of their parents?
Well, the family court is definitely a place where the emotions are raw. Everybody comes there, especially their first hearing, with their life basically coming apart. And that emotion is there just boiling on the surface. It's a very difficult thing for individuals to deal with. Part of that is the judge being prepared to deal with those cases and issuing a decision as quick as possible to resolve issues between the parties, but also giving them the time to have their peace, make their say, feel like they're actually being heard by the court. It's not always happening at this time. Some courts delay action. Basically, they need to feel like they're down there getting respect from the court.
Thank you, Lynn. I appreciate that. Amy, I want to ask you the same thing. What's your thought process as a hearing master, or what would it be as a judge, for resolving conflicts involving divorce and custody of children between parents?
I think the best interest of the children is the overriding factor in consideration always. I think it's also important that we recognize that it's a highly emotional time for parents. I think that goes without saying. And I think as part of the judicial officer's role, or the judicial officer's role in part, is to remove the emotion from the proceeding as best as possible, by remaining unemotional themselves, by focusing the parents and the parties on their children, by reminding them that that's what they're there for, by expeditiously resolving the case. As Lynn said, there's always an element of emotion that gets resolved once the case is resolved. So I think it's a balance of all those needs and the need of the judicial officer to be unemotional and remain objective to the best of their ability.
Thank you, Amy. And Amy, you'll get the first crack at this question. What's one deficiency you see in the family court system, and what would you do to fix it if elected?
The one. It's actually, as somebody who's practiced down there and as somebody who works down there every day, it's actually hard for me to identify a deficiency, to be perfectly honest. It's easy to be critical, I think, but in total, the family court is made up of individuals who care very much about families and very much about the well-being of families, the well-being of children. People down there devote every day of their lives being away from their own families to make the lives of Clark County citizens and Clark County families better. So I'm always cognizant of that. It's hard for me to be critical of the individual people that work there. It's a system, and as a bureaucracy, there's things that could be done better. Decisions need to be made more quickly, and I think we've taken steps towards remedying that by adding district court judges. I think that's going to go a long way. By adding more judges to the bench, it's going to help. I think that's going to go a long way. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Lynn, what about you? What's something you'd like to change at the family court?
The biggest issue I've had is just getting a case moving and getting it through the system. Like she says, it is a system designed in part to slow things down and burn some of that emotion out that we talked about at the beginning. The court is doing a lot to fix these problems. Number one, we're getting 6 new judges during this election cycle, which hopefully will help reduce some of the caseload that each judge has. It'll also take some of the backlog out from the abuse neglect courts, which currently under hearing masters are kind of having double duty. They'll hear the case in the hearing master, and then it'll automatically go up for an appeal to the family court judge. So they're taking that step out, and that will obviously help move things along faster. Basically, a divorce should not take a year and a half to get done. It should move systematically toward resolution, and I think they're doing a good job of increasing that performance.
Thank you, Lynn. And stick with us. Our judicial debates will continue in just a moment.
Get ready for every Raiders game with us. Vegas Nation Game Day will give you everything you need to know about each week's matchup.
I'm excited.
Sundays at 9 a.m. starting in September on YourView. Vegas Nation Game Day coming this September.
All your listeners and followers, the best name of any podcast in the world is podcast.
Nobody's ever done it. Nobody's ever faked
Not that we
their
know
death.
of.
No.
When you work with Prince, you got to get used to the fact that he changes musicians like underwear. You know, like
Tom Brady. And Tom Brady, he's a quarterback in the Boston area.
I'm not sure who you're talking about.
You're watching the Judicial General Election Debate for Family Court Department M. It's part of an ongoing series of debates produced by the Las Vegas Review-Journal to inform local voters about these important races. Lynn, on your website, you list several areas of experience, including being a pro tem judge in Clark County, work with traffic courts, and serving on the Guardianship Commission. Do you feel you have enough day-to-day experience with things like divorces and child custody to be running for family court?
Oh yes, that's where I have spent the majority of my practice, is dealing with divorces and dealing with family law specifically. That's where my trial experience is, except for my very early time where I had a few jury trials in insurance defense, but I definitely have the family law experience. I have been doing essentially nothing but the hearing master pro tem service that I provide. I kind of act as a substitute judge for hearing masters when they have to have their education or just take a vacation. And I've been having that experience for 18 years also to gain the judicial experience. I've enjoyed both, and I really enjoy my service in the family law courts.
Thank you, Lynn. Amy, on your website, you list 5 of your most significant cases. In one of those cases, you denied a temporary restraining order to a woman who sought to be protected from an abusive husband. Very sadly, 6 weeks after you failed to grant her that order, her husband murdered her children, and then killed himself. You called your decision a mistake, acknowledging that, quote, you didn't appreciate the current threat to her safety, end quote, when you denied the order. Should voters be concerned about electing someone who's made such a significant error in judgment?
It's such a hard question to answer. You know, I put myself out there by listing that case among my most significant cases, by continuing to acknowledge it. It's not so, look, the mistake is, it's a human mistake. I don't hold myself solely responsible for not being able to predict the behavior of a monster. Did my failure to grant that order for protection lead to the conclusion, the tragic conclusion? I'm not going to blame myself. There's 1,000 steps between my failure to grant that order for protection. People always say it's not the piece of paper. No, it's not the piece of paper. It's the effect that piece of paper could potentially have on the woman, the victim, actually, that we hope to affect by granting that order for protection. That's the part. It's the validation of her as a victim that continues to haunt me. And the totality of what I've written in that, the significance of that case, is what I want people to take away. How that haunts a judicial officer.
I appreciate that, Amy. I know that's hard.
It's brutal.
And I'm going to just jump right into a different question, and Amy, we'll start with you. You know, obviously you think you're the best person for this position on family court. Do you think Lynn lacks the qualifications or temperament necessary to serve effectively as a family court judge?
Absolutely not. No, and nor do I question whether he's got the family law experience, the question that preceded this one. He certainly does. I see him down there on a regular basis. What I have over Lynn is 7 years judicial experience, 7 years day in, day out on the bench, the experience as a judicial officer, the experience as a judicial officer in an administrative capacity, because that's an element of being a judge that people don't necessarily think of, but is critical, because not only are you taking the bench and making judicial decisions, you're running an office. That's 50% of what a judge does, and you need to be able to do that effectively. You need to be able to make your office an effective office so that you can be a good judicial officer. I've learned how to do that. I've had the weeks of judicial education that every judge has their first year on the bench. I've done that over and over and over again. 7 years I've done this. Nobody can touch that.
I appreciate that. Lynn, I'm going to ask you the same question. Do you think Amy lacks the qualifications or temperament necessary to serve effectively as a family court judge?
I think she has the experience. Obviously, I believe we took the bar at the same time and passed at the same time in 1997. We have both been practicing in family law for essentially the duration of our careers. I'm not going to attack her in those ways. She has experience as a judge, sitting as a current hearing master, but I believe I also have that experience. I've been doing that for 18 years, sitting in and learning how to run a courtroom, how to administer and issue decisions, how to deal with individuals who are both represented as well as individuals who come in without attorneys. In family law, most of the cases do not have representation. They're doing it themselves because they don't have the ability to retain counsel. I've dealt with those situations as well. And it's obviously a complicated thing to run a courtroom, but I believe I have the experience to be able to do it and step in and on day one be able to handle this courtroom.
Thank you, Lynn. I'm going to direct this question to you, Lynn, for the first shot at it. Family court judges usually deal with people on their worst days. What in your background has prepared you to fairly adjudicate those cases?
Well, yes, family court is an area that deals with individuals who are not in a good way. And I have been dealing with them as clients, trying to get them prepared to deal with decisions being made either against them or for them. I have represented them in areas where they're just going to come apart. I've also dealt with the guardianships, dealing with individuals who may need the services of somebody to assist them in their daily lives, but they certainly don't want it. Many elderly individuals don't want to lose the ability to drive, don't want to have somebody taking care of them. And nonetheless, we have to do what we can to be servicing them and helping them get through their daily lives in the best way possible without too much interference, without too much combativeness. Obviously, having something imposed on an individual, whether it be a custody order or a guardianship order, is a very difficult thing to deal with.
Thank you, Lynn. Amy, I want to ask you the same thing. Obviously you're working as a hearing master. What's prepared you to fairly adjudicate the cases that you see?
I think every minute of my career, in addition to the last 7 years, especially the last 7 years, but I think just every life experience probably leading up to my career as an attorney, and then every step of the way as an attorney. It's why I do family law, because people interest me, helping people interest me, learning what it is that helps people through these difficult processes that we see on a day-to-day basis. That's why I went into family law. It was by design. It wasn't by accident, as some family law attorneys do. And it's just the study of human behavior and what makes this process tolerable to people, what makes them successful after this process is over, what makes them thrive as human beings. That's what I've spent 24 years doing. It's what I've spent 7 years on the bench learning how to do.
Thank you, Amy.
That's what will make me successful.
Thank you. And stay tuned. Our judicial debate will continue right after this message.
With so much excitement building around the Raiders and their inaugural season in Las Vegas, the fans want to be heard. The launch of Vegas Nation Fan Zone is their answer. That's right, Raiders fans can sound off on all things Raiders, from players to coaches to even the new Allegiant Stadium. Vegas Nation Fan Zone is accessible 24/7 and allows fans to generate and upload their own posts for lively interaction. Simply go to fanzone.vegasnation.com to sign up today.
Welcome back, and thank you for sticking with us. You're watching the judicial debate, for Department M. Amy, this question will start with you. Would you name a judge on the bench that you think is doing a good job and a characteristic of theirs that you would like to emulate?
I have two mentors over the course of my career. One is retired Judge Gerald Hardcastle. I make reference to him often publicly. He was the family court judge that I worked as a law clerk for. He has a reputation for being grumpy. I can't dispute that, but he was also incredibly intelligent, always well prepared, very well respected, of the highest integrity. That's who I seek to emulate. Frank Sullivan is a current district court judge. He's been a longtime mentor of mine, just does an amazing job of empathizing, making the most difficult decisions under the worst of circumstances. He's a child abuse, neglect, dependency district court judge. And I've long admired him and seek to learn from him my entire career.
Thank you, Amy. Lynn, what about you? Who's a judge that you look up to or think is doing a good job? And what's something that they do that you would like to do?
I have admired many of the judges down there. Judge Duckworth is currently the presiding judge in family court, and I have really admired the way he has handled his courtroom over the course of his career there. I have never, ever seen him get upset or in any way become belligerent with either the parties or the attorneys. He's always level-headed. He is always capable of explaining his decisions in such a way that even if you lose, you come out of there with an understanding not only of the law, but the position and why the court reached its decision. I have admired that ability and attempted to emulate it as much as possible. It's a good skill, and it's one that not every judge down there has. If a judge is attacking a party or an attorney, we really don't look all that good to our clients, and we really get angry and have a tough time arguing our case. So I have admired that skill and ability greatly.
Thank you, Lynn. And Lynn, I've only got about 30 seconds for a response for this question. If you're elected, what do you want your legacy to be?
Just faithful service to the community of this Clark County. I want to be known that I was fair and even-handed and did what the law required for the children of Clark County, that they were treated fairly, that their interests were upheld.
Amy, same question for you. What would you like your judicial legacy to be if you're elected?
I want to be known for having a strong work ethic. I think it's important that people know I show up and I work hard every day. I want to be known for having the highest integrity. I want to be beyond reproach. I want to be known for being empathetic, understanding, even-tempered, and again, hardworking. That's important to me.
Well, thank you both very much, and we'll be back for our final segment in just a moment.
Alexa, play my flash briefing.
Here's what's new in today's news.
Stay in the loop of the latest information in the Las Vegas Valley with the Las Vegas Review-Journal Flash Briefing. Every day, we will provide you with everything you need to know in news, business, weather, entertainment, and sports. Go to the Alexa app and search LVRJ News Briefing. Then say, Alexa, play my flash briefing to hear 3 minutes of the most important information in Las Vegas.
The Vegas Nation podcast is your source for all your Las Vegas Raiders news. Subscribe and get fast takes and smart coverage. Download the Vegas Nation app, check out vegasnation.com, and stay up to date with your Las Vegas Raiders.
Welcome back to our judicial debate. It's time for closing statements. Amy, we'll start with you. You have 1 minute.
I said in my opening statement that I've been essentially an apprentice judge for the past 7 years. And the reason that's important, I saw something when I was a law clerk, and that is once you become judge, nobody tells you you're doing the job wrong. You're beyond that. You're beyond reproach. So as an apprentice judge, I have been told for 7 years what I've done wrong, and I've learned from that. When you start as a district court judge, you don't learn. You never get better. I've spent 7 years learning and learning and learning and learning. I am at the peak of my game. This is a starting point. I've earned this spot. I hope I've earned your vote. Mastin4judge.com is where you can learn more about me, learn more about the case that Victor made reference to. It's an important case. It's important to me. It's important that I have a chance to explain that, among other cases near and dear to my heart. Mastin4judge.com. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you very much, Amy. Lynn, 1 minute.
Thank you. As I started or didn't finish in my opening, I have served as a pro tem hearing master in the Clark County courts for 18 years. I have had a lot of experience in dealing with all situations in sitting as a judge in the courtroom. So that includes guardianship court, which this court currently is, whether it be for adults or for minors. I've also sat as a hearing master in dependency court, in mental health court, as well as traffic and small claims. So I have a great deal of experience in those areas. I have helped families throughout this county in those very areas of law. And so I believe that I have the experience as a family law attorney, as a guardianship attorney, and also as a judge in those same areas to be able to handle this courtroom going in. It's going to be a tough choice for everybody because she and I are, in my mind, two great candidates for this position. But I do believe I carry the edge, that I am the proper person for this position. And I ask you to choose Lynn Hughes for family court judge.
Thank you very much, Lynn. Thank you both for joining us. And thank you for watching this edition of Nevada Judicial Debates. Remember, you can find this program and more information on all of the judicial races at reviewjournal.com. We'll see you next time.